Hello PlayStation fans and collectors, I'm Chris, welcome to PlayStation Fusion, and today we take a look of a collection from my friend Nicolo from Italy. So let's go!
Hi, I'm Nicolo, I'm from Italy, and this is my collection.
How long did you collecting video games and how it started? What is your story?
I've been a collector pretty much all my life, but I've started actively collecting video games around 2015-2016, so about 10 years ago. It all started when PS4 started to get traction, so more and more people, shops and everything started to get rid of PS3 games, so prices just sunk. It got everything cheaper and cheaper. And little me decided to try to get all the games that I've always wanted to play but I couldn't afford to get. And by getting more and more of these games, I also realized that I was getting them so cheap, let's say around €5 each, that I could also flip them for profit. And I know it's something that is not seen as a good thing now, but back then, since I was a student with very tight money in my pocket, I decided that it was not only a good thing but also a necessity to further finance my hobby and keep collecting, basically. This led me to get more into the collecting side of things, so prices, sought after games, what is rare, what is expensive and so on. And by getting more and more into this world, at one point, I think around 2017, I decided to join a couple of Facebook groups about PS3 collectors. And that was pretty much the beginning of the end and the start of my obsession. And I'm really, really happy to have joined those groups because I found a lot of beautiful people that I'm proud to call friends, like Chris. Exactly.
You're mainly collecting for the PlayStation system, but why? And which is your main console generation to collecting?
I'm collecting only for PS3, PS4 and PS5, and the reason is simple. I had to draw a line somewhere and I decided to only get games that I want to play for systems I play on. Simple, maybe boring, but for me it works perfectly.
How many games do you have in your collection? And which are, in your opinion, the top 3 rarest you have?
I'm currently sitting on 1,330 games, divided more or less into 580 for PS3, 530 for PS4, 130 for PS5, and the rest divided into PS1, PS2, and PS Vita. The 3 rarest games I own meant that was difficult to just reduce to 3, but I've made it. The first one is an Indian-only release called Rawan. Rawan is an awful tie-in of a superhero movie produced in Bollywood. You could find this copy only in India, only if you knew someone there, because it was pretty much impossible to import otherwise. And while this has become, I would say, more common lately, a lot of the copies are so up for sales are fakes. And you can see if it's a fake or not because the real copy has a background in the inside cover. If you see a white background copy, then it's a fake, so keep that in mind. For the second one, we go to Brazil or United States with the 3D demo disc. This is the next level. This disc was given into a bundle with a PS3 and a Sony Bravia TV 3D, and only, at least for the ESB version, only in the States or in Brazil. This is interesting because despite the name, this is not just a demo disc, but it only has 2 demos and 2 complete games, one of which is Super Stardust HD, and it's the only way you can get Super Stardust HD physically on PS3. Last but not least, we go in China with one of the 3 Chinese exclusive specifically Super 6-in-1. Super 6-in-1, while Child of Light and also Gene Rain, the two other exclusives, become more common and cheaper during the years, I see that this one keeps getting harder to find, and it's a collection of 6 indies for which you can only find inside these collections. They, I think, all play in English, aside one that only plays in Chinese, but it's a good collection, hard to get, and I highly suggest it. So these three were my top 3 rarest games I own, but I'm bending a little bit the rules here because despite being the rarest games I own, they're not by far the rarest items I own. In fact, I have 3 super rare items that are strange and obscure versions of very popular and common games. The first one is Concord, but not any version of Concord. This is the Ukrainian version of Concord. Why it's special? Because this version never actually hit the market or hit the shelves. In fact, due to the war, it got really delayed and got into the warehouse in Ukraine when the game was already put offline and all the copies called back to be destroyed. So bear with me, now it starts the legends and the word of mouth, so take it whatever you want it. The legend says that these games got to the warehouse and immediately got out for destruction, but one of the workers just found 3 boxes of 15 copies each that fell off the truck on their way to destruction, and this huge, incredible fan of video games and rare editions decided to keep 5 copies for himself and selling the rest to interested people. I had the fortune, I was so lucky that I knew a guy that knew a guy that knew this guy and managed to hook me up with one of these copies. Strange, yes. More interesting than the base one, yes. Probably more valuable, I doubt it, but I love it. The second one is a huge one, or this bigger one, and it's the Dante's Inferno Divine Edition from Spain. This is a limited edition. Some say it's official, some say it's not, only released in Spain, and it took me like 6 years to find one. As you can see, the box is not in a good shape, and probably the game is also in the wrong edition. It should have been the Death edition, but whatever, I just wanted one copy and I couldn't find any, so after 6 years I just got this one because I had to. And here is probably the most obscure and rare one I own, because there are basically no proof of its existence, aside from a couple of pixelated photos of a random, obscure and pretty much dead website who covered the event, and I never ever saw one up for sale, and I just got this by sheer luck from a guy. Third and final one, we have this slipcover of God of War Ascension. So this slipcover was only given during a one night only event held in Rome, Italy, in a single, apparently random GameStop, where you could meet some of the developers, and if you had proof of an active pre-order of God of War Ascension in GameStop Italy, you would receive this slipcover and a t-shirt.
Which game of your collection do you pay most by yourself, and why you take it for this price?
So the most I've paid for one of my games is 180 euros for the Annapurna Ultimate Collection. So I've paid retail price for this amazing box. These are 8 games, 2 of which exclusive to this collection, and I had to have it because I love Annapurna games. I knew that this was selling like hot cakes, and this would have probably been costly near like a kidney down the line, so I had to get it as soon as I could.
What is your partner say about your hobby as a video game collector?
So what my partner says about my collection, she's very supportive. She's a gamer herself, so she's pretty much happy to have all the choice in the world to what to play next. And she's so supportive actually that she designed and built these beautiful shelves that you see behind my back, so I couldn't be more happy than that, to be honest.
Which games do you think are easy to get in your area but hard to get in other countries?
So, which games are easier to get in my region? I would say, of course, the Italian exclusive, the few Italian exclusives you can find out there. But as of today, after COVID, I can easily access to pretty much all the European exclusives, so all the games from France, Germany, Belgium, Austria, Netherlands, Spain, whatever, so I can easily access to pretty much all the European exclusives, so those are the easier to get, I think.
Can you name 3 games or editions stay exclusive to your region?
So, 3 Italian exclusives, so you already probably know that they're mostly SingStar and Buds games that I do not have because I'm not interested in those, but I can show you 3 other ones. The first and possibly the most famous one is Dante's Inferno Santa Lucia edition, so the GOTY of Dante's Inferno that comes with a way cooler cover and a couple of leaflets with quotes. Then we go on PS4 with 2 lesser known editions. These are called the comic book editions of Batman Arkham Return to Arkham Asylum and Return to Arkham City. So these were individually numbered limited editions from GameStop and Panini Comics, which is the biggest Italian comic publisher, and they come with a poster, a big comic book, and a standalone edition of both games that you can only find inside these editions that are for sure multi-5, so they play in English, Italian, French, German, and whatever. And the only other way you can get those are from Korea, but I really don't know which language they play with, so stick with this.
Which game, in your opinion, is the most valuable game in your collection?
The most valuable game in my collection is still the one I've shown you before, so the Annapurna Ultimate Edition that I think nowadays goes for 400 plus euros. Again, I'm pretty happy to have paid 180 at release date.
Is there any funny or special story that happens only because you're a game collector?
Yes, I actually have a couple of interesting and funny stories behind a couple of my games. The first one is when I've acquired Arab Drift Cars, so the infamous Arab GTA clone. And I remember contacting a Middle Eastern collector who hooked me up with a couple of copies in exchange for a very specific frontal part of the directional light of an 80s Vespa motorbike that I don't know how, but I found. And he was very happy, so it was one of the strangest yet most awesome trades I've made in my entire life. And the second one is when I've tried to buy this bad boy here that I'm not even trying to pronounce because I butchered the name in German probably. In European it's called, for the European version it's called My Pet Life, like Farmer Edition or something like that. So I was in Germany and I've tried to buy this game in 3 different times, in 3 different cities, in 3 different MediaMarkt or Saturns. And every time I went to the cashier, the system said that it was not existent in the system of the shop, and when they tried to add it, the entire payment system of the shop crashed. So this game was responsible for making pretty much go nuts 3 shops out of 3, and I had to buy it directly from the producer Mark und Technik from Amazon because they couldn't sell them for some reason even though they were in the shop. It was pretty funny, to be honest.
Do you have any really rare or obscure non-standard game or demo things in your collection and can tell from where they comes?
Yes, I indeed own more than one obscure, funny, weird stuff for PS3 or PS4, and my favorites are the Netflix installation disc. These were given only in the States when the app for Netflix was exclusive to Microsoft, so they made these CDs for both PS3 and Wii that you could ask for free and basically see Netflix as the other users. Then there's the System Update disc. This was given in 2007-2008 to all those people who couldn't connect the console to the internet to update the system and play the newer games. And possibly the most obscure one, this I don't know even how to call this, is a CD given with the Sony Bravia, more or less during the launch of PS3. This has a bunch of PS3 related promotional material, and through this CD you could take part in a contest where you could win a 20 or 60 gigabyte PS3 fat. But by far my favorite one is definitely this one. This is the pre-order bonus from GameStop Italy that became pretty much infamous all over the world and an instant meme all over the world because it came with 2 cans of Red Bulls and a pack of glow-in-the-dark condoms. Why? I don't really know, but it was an instant meme. It was stupidly hard to come by because just a cardboard box with nothing inside aside from 2 Red Bull cans that here are missing. And unfortunately, at last moment, they decided to get rid of the condoms. So they just changed this phrase that only translates to make a full of energy without any limits, and the original version was get a full energy and a night of pleasure or something like that, and they decided to get rid of that because of the backlash, and I'm really sorry about that. But this was another one that was really hard to come by because all people just threw it away.
Which one of your games was most difficult to find for you?
So the hardest one to come by was definitely one between the Dante's Inferno Special Edition or the slipcover I've shown you before, because those were borderline impossible to even find one up for sale, let alone the cost. It was pretty cheap for me, but for someone else could be pretty steep.
Do you have any collecting goals like sets or something like that?
About my goals, I don't really have any goals right now. I just want to get all the games that I would like to play for the cheapest possible without running out of space. So my goal is just pretty much surviving. Boring, yes?
So then thank you for having the time for me to make the video together, and we see us next time.
So this is pretty much it. So thank you to Christian for having me and for letting me show you my strange collection. And yet again, have a good night and thank you.